First ever victory. I was sitting in the stands at Tulane Stadium. The Saints beat Norm Snead and the Philadelphia Eagles 31-24. Flea Roberts with the big kick returns in that game, a primary reason why the Saints scored 31 points and didn't amass many yards on offense. And that's in fact what happened in San Diego at Qualcomm Stadium as the Saints got their first victory of the season on Sunday, rallying past the San Diego Chargers in wild fashion, 35-34. The Saints a winner, and of course the total yards not a reflection of what you're used to seeing from the Saints, only 275 yards, and the Saints turned it over twice, but they forced 3 turnovers. You win the turnover battle, you win the game. And John Kuhn, now there's one good free agent pickup the Saints have made. He's a good football player. People wondered, does he have game left? Why are the Packers letting him get away? He's got plenty of game left. He still does all the things he did that well in Green Bay. Block, run, catch. He's a good player, and the Saints are fortunate to have him. So it's a victory for the Saints, Brian, and obviously it was desperately needed. Regardless of how you get it, they got it, and that matters.
Kenny, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, 1-3 sounds a heck of a lot better than 0-4, and that's what happened yesterday, and it couldn't come at a better time, sending it into the bye week. And look, defense comes up with 3 critical turnovers, 1 to clinch the game, and 2 fumble recoveries that led to the go-ahead touchdowns. And that's what they've been lacking really for quite some time, but primarily the first 3 games of the year. They made critical plays on defense when they needed to. First really complimentary game that they've had this season, and it's a good win.
Ricky, it doesn't happen very much, hardly at all in fact, that the Saints win a game when Drew Brees doesn't play really well, and he didn't play really well in this game, and yet they won the game.
Well, without those, so I mean, you know, you don't look for his ball to be as crisp as inside. But my whole thing, you know, yesterday was a game that the Saints really needed. I mean, they couldn't afford to go 0-4 like Brian said earlier. And just looking at the whole wrap-up of the game, the defense fought hard. Even though they gave up a lot of points, they still fought hard and they got some turnovers that really helped the team win the ball game.
And one of the reasons the Saints were able to win the game, even though they weren't that productive on offense, they did have some time of possession because they had offensive balance for a change, something that has been lacking where the Saints are concerned this year. The numbers don't lie. Against Oakland, 43 passes, 22 runs. Against the Giants, overwhelming edge on the passing side. And the same with Atlanta, but look at this. 72 snaps, 38 pass, 34 run. That's really what you want to see, Ricky, is a team that at least has the ability to run the ball that other teams have to respect. It makes it more difficult to defend you.
And I'll tell you what, you can see the running back marking, and you can see the way he was acting yesterday, like, man, give me the ball. I want to run the ball. And it made a big difference. And you can tell whenever they have balance on offense, running and passing, the Saints will be a whole lot better. You can see against Atlanta last week when they played Atlanta, they was a one-sided team. Atlanta got a chance to really carve them up on the passing, and they just didn't look the same. But this week they're looking a lot better on offense.
And it's good to see Daniel Lasco play from scrimmage. I think that's something we're going to see more of moving forward.
Kenny actually showed some pretty good skip in his hop in his skips, I guess. But you know what, going back to when they're balanced like that, it also allows you to control the clock, move the chains, and keep your defense, which is your suspect phase of the team right now, keep them off the field. And then they did a good job of that. I know there probably were some critics that said, why are they throwing, you know, or why are they running the ball down inside the red zone late in the game? But you know, this is a good way to take time off the clock. Don't allow Phillip Rivers the ball. And I thought they did a great job of that.
And I mentioned John Kuhn earlier, Ricky, and here's a guy that we know was a really good player in Green Bay, and he was a popular player. And this is a guy that clearly is proving that he still has game with the New Orleans Saints. When you're talking about John Kuhn, yesterday, of course, 2 touchdowns rushing, 1 catching. We know he blocks. Ricky, this is the first fullback they've had since Heath Evans that really could do more than one thing. Fullbacks typically are just bludgeon guys that go hit somebody, but this is a guy that can block, run, and catch the football.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, they had some holes open for him on the goal line. He didn't have to go but a yard, so each run, I mean, he got 5 or 6 yards, but, you know, you can see the toughness that he brings, and that's what they was missing. And I'll tell you what, it's hard to find a good fullback, and they don't have many left in, you know, that position kind of being extinct. So, you know, he's still a good player, and I think that they need to run him a little more.
And when your fullback can catch the ball out of the backfield, a defense has to respect that because most of the times they'll let fullbacks leak out and not bother them because they're not threats.
Right, and Kenny, the surprising thing was Kuhn has scored 3 touchdowns in a game once before in 2010. I thought, now here's a monumental moment of a fullback scoring 3 touchdowns, one the catch variety too. So, you know, no, Kenny, I couldn't agree with you more. That's money well spent on a free agent acquisition.
Yeah, more on the running back situation and scoring touchdowns coming up in trivia later on in the show. Bottom line is the Saints attempted to run the ball even when they were behind in this game, and they maintained some integrity in the process of doing so. And, Ricky, they made some changes defensively. They started new linebackers. Laurinaitis was hurt, but they also started Michael Maudie and Nate Stupar. And Stupar in particular had a good game. He had 9 tackles. He recovered the fumble. Craig Robertson moved inside with Laurinaitis being hurt, and Ellerby still in the tub. So as a result, at least they're trying different things, and they tried Von Bell as a starter at safety.
Well, you know, you got to try, you know, you're not trying to win. So you can see what Coach did yesterday. He kind of mixed it up just to see what he had. And, you know, they played a lot of zone, and they were playing cover 2, and he just had to say, hey, we just got to go man. We're going to get beat. We're going to get a beat. And, you know, you heard Coach Payton say that at halftime, that, you know, we're playing all this Tampa 2 and all this, you know, zone 2. So they went to man, and it turned out to be a little better, even though they're still giving up too many yards on defense.
Well, they were much better in the second half because they did man up outside, and they created some pressure on Phillip Rivers, who is a pocket passer.
Right, and that's what you have to do. You have to go in and just say, hey, we're going to all out go after this guy, make him get rid of the ball, get it out of his hand. And you can see down the stretch, he made a lot of bonehead plays down the stretch. The one he trying to change audible, the guy snapped the ball. So he just went down the stretch, looked like he wasn't ready for that.
You know, you can credit Dennis Allen on making those halftime adjustments. So they did a good job. You know, sometimes if you can't get that 4-man pass rush, Ricky knows, you've got to create it. You have to manufacture it, and they did a good job of getting after the quarterback.
Nick Fairley had a sack and a half. Kruger was in on a sack, but they had numerous pressures inside, which is what you want to have against a pocket passer to disrupt him. That's how people affect Drew Brees, and this is how the Saints were able to impact Phillip Rivers in the second half. Another factor in this game was field position, and the Saints kicking game has been much maligned, and rightfully so, but field position in this game certainly favored New Orleans for various reasons. Look at the average field position in this game. The Saints average starting from their own 37-yard line, which was a significant improvement from the previous 3 games. And Brian, when you can shorten the field like that, it makes it a lot easier to score, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And, you know, Thomas Morstead is one of these players that sometimes gets overlooked when you're not playing well. But Thomas is an elite punter in this league, and he's established himself, and he's such a strong weapon for the Saints. He keeps the Saints in games when they haven't, for whatever reason, defense or offense.
He's having a Pro Bowl type of season thus far. And obviously, you know, the defense creating field position, Ricky, with the turnovers, that certainly made a difference. But it's nice when your kicking game contributes because people overlook that. Everybody thinks offense, defense, but if your kicking game is strong, it will help win games.
Yeah, they got the best punter in football, I think. And, I mean, over the years, you can see that he's been studying. And that's what you're looking for, your kickers. I mean, they had Martin here. Now they got a great punter. They had a great place. And the guy they got now kicking the ball, I think that as he go, a young cat, he's going to get better, too.
He's got a strong leg, no question. Right. He's kicking touchbacks, and he has great range on field goals, as we've seen already, with a 57-yarder and nearly made the 61-yarder. So now the bye week arrives, and I'll start with you, Rick, because you played the game and you were involved in some of these things, and you've seen what byes can do. They have positive impacts on some teams, negative impacts on other teams. How do you approach a bye week, and how do you think the Saints are going to react to this?
Well, you got to tell the bigger guys that what they have to do. They got to stay in shape, and you know, and you can't get Nick and them, the bigger guys, that get out there and go to eat and then don't run and don't work out and get out of shape that 3 or 4, 5
And that
days.
Can happen in
It can happen, yeah. So what you got to do is stay on those guys, and they got to train. I mean, you still got to train. Even though you can go home for 3 or 4 days, wherever you're at, you got to get out and participate playing football. You can't just sit around. And that's going to be the key, the guys who stood to train and know that you got a week off, but you still got to stay in shape.
No Rankins or Bro yet coming back, but getting closer, Brian, with the extra week off. You might finally get Ellerby on the field. Knock, knock. You hope so. And you certainly get Snead a little bit healthier, who was playing less than 100%. And then, of course, you think about your left tackle, Teron Armstead.
Right.
So the bye week can't help the Saints, obviously, even though it's earlier than you'd like it to be.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Ellerby, because that's a guy, that's a crucial guy that they could have they've counted on coming into the season. He hadn't been able to get on the field. So you're right. Let's hope that they can get some of these ailments, injuries, feeling better as we go into really the second stretch of the season. I'll tell you what, Ricky, you know this, it makes such a difference to go into a bye week on a positive note than had they not been able to overcome the deficit yesterday.
And the whole thing about that game yesterday, too, looking at Bird feel happy. He got an interception.
Yeah.
Even though they called it back, I mean, he was so happy to get that interception. He wanted to contribute so bad to the Saints and the Saints winning. You take your hat off to those guys. Those guys were glad to win that ball game yesterday.
sportsNOLAtv is brought to you by Premier Honda. 11801 I-10 Service Road in New Orleans East, right off of Bullard. Go to PremierHonda.com. At Premier Honda, they're more than your typical car dealership. Premier Honda believes in teamwork, integrity, and delivering impeccable quality to create the best experience in purchasing a car. No other dealership offers home delivery and a lifetime warranty. Stop in today or shop at PremierHonda.com and have your test drive delivered to you. Either way, you'll be treated like family. Back to talk about the NFL when sportsNOLAtv continues.